Here we are again. It's just, I really enjoy our conversations. So I'm really happy to be here again. And we're just going to keep inviting in whatever lands for us during the time when we're meeting. Like we don't sit down ahead of time and have a long list of things. And we really feel so passionate about showing up authentically. And since we talk so much about, or have been inviting in and talking about going beyond ourself, being aware, we live in a field of energy, and there's so much that influences us. And it goes beyond what we know, what we can control and stuff. And so I think that feels good of a place to start today, where there's so much that influences us. And so I'll just pause there and let you kind of say hello and whatever you want to bring in about that. Yeah.
Thanks, Stacy. Yeah, I definitely think that this week for a lot of people. Now, remember, we are pre-recording these for sure. So this is going to be behind a little bit. So we're like mid-August at this point. So I don't know when this is going to air, but this week has definitely been a challenging, energetic week for people that I've come in contact with, even me myself. I feel like it's kind of been this low vibrational energy that just didn't feel all that great, right? Like I think some people have had difficulties in workplaces. They've had difficulties even in like client-based, customer-based kind of situations. Yeah, it just kind of felt crazy energetically. Remember, we've talked a lot about how our energy and the energy of others all flows, all kind of goes in and out. So if something is going on with the universal energy and I'm having low energy, then that's going to extend to the people around me. Or if they're having low energy, it's going to extend to me too. And some of the things we've talked a little bit about things that we can implement, right? And we haven't really jumped into that in this series, but maybe that's something we can go to like in
Right.
today, because really having something to put into practice to protect our energy field. I think in the past, long time ago, I had shared with you one of the meditations that I did, really quick, short, light meditations that I do on a regular basis. It's one of the things that I do to balance myself. I've used it a lot this week, but I still think that I personally, just to be completely authentic, had a really low energetic week this week and still kind of digging out of that.
Mm-hmm.
A difficult week, and we all experience them. And I'm glad to be here today. I always feel better when you and I meet, when we're talking about these things, allowing me to get back into the space that I crave to be in every single day. I try to be in. It is my intention to be in, because it is in my higher self,
Mm-hmm.
my higher connectivityness to the spiritual realm, to the higher realm, where I want to live, where I want to practice from, where I want to interact from with myself and with others, because it is the higher place of compassion, the high with self and with others. And that's really important to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
am excited to be here today for this conversation, wherever it may go.
Right. Oh, I so resonate with so much of what you are sharing. And I also felt like a low vibe, was more anxious, disruptive sleep. And I'm going to tag on to what you were saying about we, I, you, and then I can say we love to experience that high vibe connected to higher self in the universe, whatever other people might reference that as. And what's so interesting, and I'm just talking about me now, is wanting to be so loving towards myself and others. But when I'm struggling in that low vibe, I get more judgmental of myself because I want to get back to the high vibe, warm and fuzzy place. And we've also talked about this in past episodes where maybe we haven't said it this way, I don't remember. We are high consciousness, loving beings, right? In a non-physical essence sort of form, whatever. And then we're also human. We have humanness. And the human aspects are where we experience the pain and the discomfort and all of those things. And so I definitely find, and I see this in working with people and seeing people when I'm out about running errands, is that I think we can just want so much to get back there. And then for me, then I stay where I'm at longer because I'm not even honoring where I'm at. So when we do get into it very soon here, a practical, like what do we do? You have your meditative practice. I have also meditative practices and different things that I do because this is part of being human. And even if we can't be in most of our days spent in, oh, I feel so good and full. And it's hard going in and out of that. I hear people when I meet with my clients and they're doing better. And then they feel like they've taken a dive down a deep hole and then they've lost all of, I'm like, it isn't lost. It's just another something is surfacing. And what if everything just wants to be seen and loved by us? And then we can put it out to the world and receive from others in that way too. But it's this complexity of being a human being. Like it's just really so I relate so much. And I love that's what we're bringing in today because we're hopefully people are already noticing like we're not just going to be like hey everybody we're always going to be this like great that's great when we're there great you'll know it you'll feel it hopefully from us but it's just we want to be real because we also do know people are struggling and that's also a lot of why we want to talk about these things
Yeah,
we want to get from different perspectives and what we find helps and then people can figure out or discern what they want to try. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think that um, having the realness, having the authentic self show up is so important because when we just come on when we're in good vibrational place, um, people assume that that's what they're always supposed to be. And so then they think that they're failing at something.
Oh, yes.
It's never going to be that way. Like we're always going to have moments or, hours or sometimes days where things aren't going to be in that higher level and that place of as you said warm and fuzzy, right? um,
Right.
because we are human. We are spiritual beings. We are soul beings, but we're also human. We are here for a human experience. And part of a human experience is that we are to feel all of the emotions. We're here to learn through this journey, right? We essentially chose to learn these emotions, right? And it's so funny. I Something just popped in, and when something pops in, I think I really think it's something I'm supposed to talk about. But I had a friend this week who reached out to me who had the loss of an animal this week. Now it wasn't. Let me explain. It wasn't their animal. It was another animal at the stables where their animal is kept, and they said to me, I am grieving this animal as if it was my own, and I grieve animals so much more than I do humans, and we really had a long conversation about this because you know, uh, it really is, in my opinion, that animals love so freely. They
Mhm.
give so freely, and they really are this being that can teach us so many things. They can teach us some of the lessons that we have come into this human existence in which to learn, that, you know, no matter what
Mhm. Mhm.
someone does to us, that we still have the ability to love, that we still have the ability to um, trust, that we still have the ability
Mhm.
to not lash out, right? We can still do those things even when somebody has hurt us.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I really was talking about this, and she was talking about her grief, and I the other thing that I said was, you know, isn't it beautiful when we look at grief as a beautiful thing? Because when we grieve, we
Mhm.
know that we have had that beautiful experience to love so
Yes.
deeply
Yes.
that we have the ability to experience the grief.
Oh,
It's not
yes.
minimizing the grief, but
No.
to have loved something so deeply that it then we experience
Yes.
grief. That is such a gift. So
Yes.
I really do believe that on a soul level,
Mm.
that animals are so far beyond where
Mm.
we are in
Mhm.
their ability to love and forgive and connect, that we
Yes.
can learn so much. And
Mhm.
I know this kind of like shifted a little bit from where we were,
Oh,
but it
beautiful.
just like dumped into me, and I
Mm.
literally just felt my vibrational being go up 10 notches just from sharing this from
Mm.
this week.
Beautiful.
And I am super excited that I was able to do that. And I'm gonna volley back to you now because I really just feel this peace that just came over me.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I appreciate animals so much. All animals. Specifically, I have two dogs, and they have been such amazing teachers for me. And of course, with the unconditional loving essence of who they are, because they don't judge, they don't, none of that. And I bring it into my being in the moment, gratitude, appreciation. It's helped me work through, oh, I got to get stuff done. I don't have time to play with the dogs. It's like, no. And isn't it so beautiful? And I'm sure we all have different types of experience with this, but like one of them, well, they both do it in different ways, but they come tell me it's time to either go play. And most of the time, depends on what I'm doing, but either way, I'll finish get if I'm right in the middle of a project or whatever. But otherwise I'm like, okay, yep, I've been sitting here for a while. It'd be great for me to go get up. And so that, and yes, the compassion that we already have, it's not even housed within us. I think we are it, but we don't always feel it or access it. And it's so safe to allow that to come in with our animals because we know we won't be judged. And it just feels so good. And nature's similar, different but similar. But animals are amazing. I'm so glad that came up. It's something that is so near and dear to my heart, the way I live my life every day. And it's one of the things that people ask me, what are your little tools or things you like to do? And I'm like, oh, one of them is I definitely take time to be with my animals, whether it's petting them, hugging them, playing with them. So that's beautiful. And
It,
I've lost many animals and grief is painful, but and for some people they're like, oh yeah, I can't go through that again. And they'll wait, whether it's a person or an animal. But I'm like, oh yeah, it hurts. And I allow myself to feel that. Because like you said, look what that means. And when we can allow ourselves, like you said, we are meant to feel we are. That is literally what makes us human, is the senses and the physicalness of all of this suit or whatever we're in, whatever it is. And so how beautiful could be to allow it. And I think if we could experience it and not be stuck in it, right? Plenty of people get stuck in grief. And all of what we're talking about, I've seen it tremendously help people. And I won't dive into that, but amazing how when we get into why we really grieve for long periods of time with loss of someone that we love, powerful.
mhm,
Just
yeah. It's funny. The other thing, something else just came to me, as we're talking, and I saw this. I don't know if it was on TikTok. I don't know where it was, but they did this news report, um, and they were talking about this prison system that had instituted this cat program where inmates were given cats to take care of, and what it did for the inmate population and for the cats. So these were homeless cats, right? That didn't have a home. They were given to the prison population, and the prisoners that took care of them had to work to earn like the food and the litter and the toys and things. Um, and they had to care for them. And what it ended up doing was it decreased violence in the prison. It decreased any
Oh.
behaviors in the prison. Many
Mhm.
of them were released early, and they were allowed to take the cats with them when they were
Oh,
released from
how
the prison. So the cats had a home, and the prisoners
oh my
had help
gosh,
and rehabilitation, right? So
that's
they both kind
amazing.
of, right? Like I thought it was like this beautiful, beautiful story.
Mhm.
But for me, what it really, really spoke to was about connection, right?
Mhm.
Connection,
Mhm.
energetic connection.
Yes.
I think so many times we don't give credence
Mhm.
to this
Mhm.
connection of beings.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
one of the things that story was talking about was these hardened criminals, right? And I'm not
Mhm.
saying anything about anyone in prison. I don't have those feelings. I don't believe they're hardened. But they were
Mhm.
talking
Mhm.
about that was their words, these hardened
Uh-huh.
criminals,
Mhm.
and how it just softened them.
Mhm.
I think for me, in a different way of saying that, it was something that gave permission in
Mm.
which for them to do so. And I think
Mhm.
that is about that energetic. It's
Mhm.
something was loving it. And
Mhm.
many times we know in the work that
Right.
we do in mental health, they haven't received that unconditional love from
Mhm.
anyone in their life.
Right.
And they're receiving that for the first time
Right.
from this little being.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
can you imagine to be an
Mhm.
adult male who has never received this? And then this little teeny tiny fur ball is the
Oh.
first time you've ever felt this.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Like, come on, people, we can do better in this world. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
imagine if we were doing these kinds of programs with, I don't know, let's say children in foster care. Instead
Mm.
of them
Sure.
having to leave their parents and their animals and their everything,
Mm.
like,
Mhm.
why
Mhm.
are we not doing things
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
keeps connections? Like, okay,
Mhm.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, like, but it's true though, because it
Mhm.
is, we are connected,
Mhm.
energetic beings to
Mhm.
everything, to
Mhm.
other humans, to
Mhm.
animals, to
Right.
trees, to land, to the cosmos. We are connected to everything. And when we break all those connections,
Mhm.
where's the hope?
Right, and how could we do well? How could we even love ourselves or anyone else or receive, like you said?
Yeah.
It's never been shown. It's never been energetically experienced or emotionally or any of that for people who haven't experienced that. And we many aspects in different countries, it's different, but that we're not treated as though we are or even should be. Connection, glad you brought that up because I feel like when I think about it, I'm like, there's definitely certain fields, certain whatever, right, where that would be a big focus, like what we do, of course, in all of our, interactions with people, but it's like certainly a criminal justice system, a correction system, like it's just not. And it's beautiful that we get to hear more of those types of stories. They're not nearly as prevalent as, of course, we'd like them to be. But this is why we are bringing up and having these conversations, because we each can do it. All starts with us, the self. And when people, and I see this, I've experienced this, but when I'm meeting with clients and there's awful things going on in the world, like war and all whatever, it's like, yeah, take the time to be like, oh my gosh, that's so awful. And like, okay, if you're stressed or whatever, like let those feelings be there. But then it's like, how do I contribute to the world through being the most loving aspect of myself? Because that emits energy. Emits
Well,
energy. And when we do that, our hearts lit up, and they have done studies. They measure this stuff. We have a magnetic resonance of our heart, our field.
and
Oh, it's amazing.
if you think about where we spend the majority of our time, the majority of our time is spent at work, right? Like, and I
Yes.
know I'm kind of shifting here, but I feel like I gotta say this, right? The majority of our time is spent at work. And we have all of these companies that are saying, why won't people stay? Why aren't people happy? Why aren't they this? Why aren't they that? Right?
Yes.
How are you managing these people?
Mhm,
Are
mhm,
you treating them as if they're human beings and they have connections and they're spiritual and they're beings that enjoy compassion and
mhm,
empathy and support? Or are you
mhm.
treating them like they're robots and you meet these metrics and it doesn't matter what anything else is going on, and there's no, we don't we don't do the the touchy feely stuff here.
Right,
Because
right.
if that's how you're treating them, that's why you have an employee problem. That's why you have
Right.
a retention problem, right?
And a motivation problem of employees. Productivity.
Right.
That's what they talk about when they're frustrated, leaders that are frustrated. Mhm,
Yep.
mhm,
Because everyone is connected. Everyone's energy is connected. So if you've got people at the top, and even the second rung, you got the top and then you got the
mhm,
second rung, and they are people with icky, I'm just going to say
mhm.
icky
Right, right.
energy.
Mhm.
It's going to bleed down throughout the whole tier, and no one is going to really want to be there. And the only people that are going to stay are the ones that feel like they are stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then they're going to have icky energy. So you're going to have constant turnover from people who are like, I ain't staying here. This is icky. I don't have to stay here. And the people that are
And
going to
that's
stay,
why,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead. I was
the
going to say,
people,
that's why workplaces have these, like, they unknowingly, probably unintentionally, cultivate the creation of the workplace culture.
hmm,
And then when people leave, who comes in the next time? The same, because we cannot attract and bring in. If we're here, we can't attract this.
absolutely.
It can't match. It can't align.
Or if they do come in, they don't
Right?
stay.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Because the
And
sustainability piece is really,
yeah,
and then leaders try to, the ways that they go about trying to motivate, trying to get the employees to perform at a level that they need. And I'll bring this in just for a quick snippet, that the leaders, and this is not to make excuses for anybody, they're under stress and pressure. See, because the part of them that the leader runs from is, I got to perform, I got to look good, I got to. So then there isn't the connection. There's isolation and separation from
and
themselves, their parts of themselves and their higher self. Where's their higher self? No, no.
they're
Yeah.
operating out of fear. And they
Yes.
want those below them operating out of fear. And as we both know, operating out of fear is not our highest self. It's
It's just
probably our,
survival.
yeah, it's our probably our lowest, right?
It's
Like,
our human survival.
yeah.
And so then any actions we take from that energy, like anyone who's an employee wants to keep their job, probably feels like they either have to fake it till they make it. They may speak up their truth, but then what's going to happen? And then we're nervous about, well, what's going to happen to me now? Because again, we have reality. We have, to pay bills and all of those things.
Yeah.
but we're also bringing too, I mean, we deserve so much more. Like we are meant to be in connection because we've all just forgotten
Hmm.
this little
Yeah.
human game we're playing in. It's just like it's a matter of our perception and perspective. And what I love to bring in, not because I'm just trying to bring in a positive note here, but it is coming in that with this awareness of what is actually possible, pretty much every day, especially when I'm struggling, and it's always harder when we're struggling and that low vibe, to cultivate, not just to get back to what feels good, but to be like, okay, I know this is not all that I am. The way I feel isn't who or what I am. It's what I'm experiencing.
Hmm.
And what do I need right now? What do I need? Do I need to talk to an external person? Do I need to go on a walk? Do I whatever? And so we do get to choose. I don't believe some people say, oh, we can choose every thought, choose all every really like maybe technically, but I'm like practically. So again, we bring in a very well from our own experiences and beliefs and stuff. It's like we're trying to be really like also like reasonable, realistic as far as like,
Hmm.
okay, but it's all one moment at a time because we can only do something in the now.
Yes.
That now's already gone now. So it's just like, okay, where am I at
Yeah.
now? Yep.
And I think, some of the simplest things to do super, super, super quick are just
Yeah.
mindfulness, right? Like,
Yes. Yes.
if it is smelling something to bring
Right.
you into the moment, to bring you into yourself, right? Like, and I don't care. Like, obviously, the things that I would normally do if I could have my pick is to go outside and smell my rose bush or a eucalyptus plant or a sagebrush plant, like those kinds of things. But
Right.
you can smell a freaking bounce dryer sheet. I don't care
Right.
because it's something that
Right.
smells nice, right? Like you can smell something that is comforting to you and it brings you back to the moment, it brings you back to the place, right?
Mhm.
Or, drink your favorite drink, like that taste thing,
Right.
right? Brings you back to the place. If you have time to go on a walk, go on a
Right.
walk. Look at the clouds or look at the trees or the blooms.
Mhm.
Bring yourself back to that place.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
something that's really quick and short, but it
Yes.
brings you back to the moment.
Yes.
And it gets your brain to stop doing all
Right.
the things that it's doing. But I
Right.
will tell you, one of the things that I find the most effective, if my brain is really racing and like I'm feeling almost panicky, because
Mm.
hey, I think we all, even if we don't have a panic disorder, right? We can have times when we feel super panicky. Like
Yes.
if somebody's yelling at me, like I don't like that. I'm not somebody who likes to be yelled at, right? Um,
Right.
one of my favorite things to do is to get a fireball. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those little cinnamon balls and
Oh,
pop it in
yeah.
my mouth because you know
Ah,
why? Your brain cannot panic at the same time as your
love
as
it.
your mouth is on fire. It cannot do it.
Wow. That's great.
Yep, it cannot do it. And
Yeah.
it can't do the two things at once. So that's the quickest
I
trick.
love this. I love because there's stuff that when we're so ramped up, it's
Hmm.
more of a quick jolting. Because I love drawing from neuroscience, like how the brain works. The brain cannot focus on two things at one time.
Hmm.
It's literally impossible. So if we
Yep.
interrupt it, whether it's with that or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
I've done over the years, I mean, there's so many wonderful tools, and I love meditation, but like most of us getting into a whatever that, because there's so many ways to meditate. If we're like, what ain't can probably happen to sit down and even be still. Sometimes movement. I
Hmm.
recently
Yes, jumping
experienced,
jacks.
right? And have you seen shaking? I didn't even
Hmm.
know what shaking was. It felt so good. And I wasn't even like highly dysregulated, but movement, we forget because it's almost like we feel so much energy. Everything's just energy. It's natural. Like you said, don't have to have a panic disorder to feel this stuff. No, these are just sensations in the body. And we, of course, you and I are like very passionate about even just separating out like we're not, this isn't what you should do when you, because you have panic disorder. This is what you do being human and you're
Hmm.
feeling some high level of distress and discomfort. And it is because you got overwhelmed, something triggered the mind process, whatever. And then your body's going to feel that.
Yep.
And so whether it's shaking and moving, I like to do EFT tapping, but
Hmm.
sometimes it's like just trying to sit still, like not trying to do anything, just letting yourself do what feels good.
Hmm.
And I know everyone can't always access some of the things that they might really like to do, whether it's
Hmm.
going for a walk in nature, but I'll say to my clients, can you walk outside for 2 minutes and consciously take a few breaths?
Yep.
Anything. And then one of my very favorites, when, and again, in the right moments, in the right context, is heart coherence. Like when I put one or both hands on my heart, even if we don't directly start to feel better right away, when we light up our heart, the brain has to begin to come into coherence with the heart, which means it's going to calm it down. Now, it may not happen in a split second. It won't if we're that. Because when we think about it, it might have taken a while for the energy to build up to where it was. And I know we want relief, but I've heard people say, even 5% relief. We might want to just feel completely calm again, but to recognize it might take a little time, but we can
Hmm.
create that. We just have to try not to be completely attached to the timing, like, and then give ourselves some grace. Like
Hmm.
if people are in their work day, since we're talking about work, we're in our work day and we had a rough something with, particularly it's usually going to come for a boss, or it might be a frustration with a coworker, and it kind of gets us a bit off. We can't focus. Instead of just trying to push through and focus, I also, people, if you have no other privacy, go to the restroom for a couple minutes, breathe, tap, whatever. Go to your car. Maybe you could scream, right? You just get it out. You go, whatever. To remember we have options. Sometimes we feel like we are just that feeling of stuckness, like I can't even go do anything to help myself. I feel like that's one of the, for me, the most uncomfortable, helpless, powerless experiences. But most often it's not the reality. We
Right.
just, we can't come up with these ideas in the moment when we're overwhelmed.
Yep.
I either have to write stuff down or I have to put a reminder on my phone to be like, okay, I'm consciously, and then now I do remember to use the things. Like for both of us, I'm guessing we don't go as long anymore as we might have in the past, just struggling trying to push through because we do use the tools. We do practice what we so-called like share, here. But like we have, I don't think we're ever done. I don't think we're ever done as long as we're alive. Done meaning still gonna feel some of these things.
Absolutely.
We're not these
Absolutely.
gurus. We aren't gurus. We don't want to be put on any kind of pedestal, right? I'm speaking for you because I know we've talked, like, we haven't said these words together, but I know us together, right? It's like, we're with you, people.
Yeah,
With you.
absolutely.
And we want to help and we want to inform and give some, hopefully, some new things to help.
Well, I have to say, like honestly, being an empath too, like I if I don't like protect my own energy field,
Yeah,
like I as a byproduct will absorb from other
right,
people too.
right. Mhm.
So like not only do I have my own crap, I won't say the other word, I almost did, but
Yeah, yeah.
not only will I have my own, I will feel like I have a historically have a problem with not protecting my energy field with animals. And I will feel I had this one experience, and I won't go through this whole story, but um, where this deer was in distress. And I came upon this deer, and I could feel, literally feel everything that this deer was feeling. Like I could feel it in my body. And it was this panic, panic, panic. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't, and I felt, of course, then my own being like just started crying, and because there was nothing I could do to help because it's a deer, right? Like this deer probably would have beat me up if I had tried to go over, right? And so I felt helpless. I think it probably felt helpless too, but and so because I had not put up a block when it came to an animal, right? I was absorbing all of that too. So my point is that just because we know about this and we have all these tips and tricks and practices doesn't mean we are immune to feeling it, right? And I think that's a really important thing to understand.
Mhm.
You know, we might have some expertise, but we are not immune. And we might practice, but we will continue to practice until our last breath. I promise it will never be resolved.
That's
So,
right. Exactly. That's okay. And maybe not that we this isn't a should, I don't like shoulds, but the possibility that we can come to on the low end be okay with it, or
mhm,
even, wow, that contributed to the enrichment of my entire human experience. And I know so many of us, when we are struggling for long periods of time and maybe like feels like suffering, very difficult, if not impossible, to appreciate that what going through those experiences allows for us with regard to transformation, expansion, whatever we want to call it. And of course, that's never to minimize, right? To try to
absolutely.
bypass or, dismiss anything. So
Yeah.
nice. What a lovely conversation. I just love, and we are just talking off the cuff. We are pretty intuitive and aware, like when like you named it directly, I don't always, but like stuff, it's like things come in, thoughts, ideas, whatever, that
Yeah.
we are inspired to share.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not
I
try to
love
be
it. I do. You know, we
yeah,
never know when we
yeah,
start this where it's going to
no.
go. And I love that. I do.
And and to be fully authentic with people without the details, like we literally check in with each other. How we doing?
Hmm.
Visit. And then before we start recording, it's like when we do talk about what feels good for a
Hmm.
place to start today, because it's just a starting place, because as people can see, we, just keep kind of exploring through an inspired experience here. But it's beautiful because then I know for me, and we talked about this, then it just feels so authentic and very connected together.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're not trying to, we're just being us. And if people experience that in a helpful way, wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Stacy, for sharing with
Thank
me
you so much.
today.
Yes,
And,
yes, yes. And we will
and
return.
yeah, absolutely. See you later.
Everybody, take care.